Happy Halloween, everyone. Yes, we have a special video for you today. If you were part of our Choose Your Own Horror Adventure story, then thank you so much for participating. And if you weren't a part of it, well, you're in for a treat today, because I'm going to share with you in its entirety the story that was created, not just by myself, but by everyone who participated. Through their voice, through their choices, this adventure through the Gilded Age was paved. This is the story of the lost cogs in hell. Just to give a little bit of backstory before we jump into everything right here, the Gilded Age was an absolutely awful time for anyone to really be alive, when most of the drugs that you'd be given for whatever ails you were all kinds of wackadoodle concoctions, usually made of stuff that we nowadays know would probably kill you really fast. There was a high infant mortality rate, women dying in childbirth, men dying in gruesome ways in factories and in mines, children being orphaned or being picked up to work in sweatshops. And if you were orphaned, congratulations, you are working in a gang to survive on the streets. Corpses in the streets, fecal matter in the streets, pollution, disease everywhere. Creatures are being annihilated across all of nature, not just in the American West, but really all across the world. Animals are being hunted into extinction by the privileged few to show off how awesome they were within their hunting skills. And there's a lot of just really bad stuff happening. No one escapes scot-free in the Gilded Age. It's just a really bad time. And I thought, what if, in one of the worst periods of human history, you were to plop a monster? People's lives are already really awful, so what actually happens when you introduce a monster into the equation? And it was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to sharing this story with you. Before I even began it, I said that I would highlight any sort of commentary that people had on the story. Unfortunately, while there were a lot of people who voted, I didn't really get much in the way of commentary, so I can't really highlight that in this video, but I hope that you still enjoy the story nonetheless. One more thing before we dive into this. This story is meant to be told from the perspective of an immigrant woman, someone who has come into America, into New York City during the Gilded Age, and has to get a job. Back during the Gilded Age, everyone had to work in order to make sure that your family survived. Eesh. So, screw retirement, screw injuries. Even if you're missing a limb, you gotta go to work. You gotta do something, otherwise you're getting kicked out of your awful tenement housing, and the streets are even worse than the living ovens that you are in. So, I want you to imagine, as we go into the story, who you might be as an immigrant woman. Get creative with your imagination, where you come from, your backstory, your appearance, everything like that, because this will really help you kind of put yourself into the story, because I'm going to refer to you a whole lot of the time because this is your story. So imagine yourself here in the story and create that immigrant woman persona. Now, with that being said, let's dive into the story, Lost Cogs in the Machine from Hell. The season is changing. Summer's oppressive heat gives way to a crisp morning chill. The fog that rolls in from the harbors now lingers longer, hiding the streets' putrid obstacles. The garbage, the rotting food thrown out overnight, the refuse left behind by man and beast alike, and the occasional body left behind from either hunger or gang violence. When the sun reaches its zenith, New York City will be revealed in all its grimy, stinky, legendary glory. This was not the land of promise you hoped to find, but America does offer all kinds of choices and possibilities. Women can work here, and you have the chance to earn more income than your family could ever hope for back at home. Everyone in your household has managed to land a job, and with enough grit and time, you'll have saved up enough to afford your own wonderful, colorful house uptown. It will take more work and a pinched nose than you had anticipated, but the dream is not dead yet. You have accepted a job at the Diamond Textile Mill. It is a large building that has been converted into a factory. Your neighbors gossip gossip that is filled with marvelous machines that manage to spin and produce threads and clothing in a mere fraction of the time that it would take you to just knit a pair of stockings. What a marvelous sight it must be. Excited for your new job, you stumble along the foggy, dirty street, headed towards the address you scribbled along with a crude map onto a strip of broadsheets. One thing that is surprising about this country is how much people love the news and buy large things called broadsheets or newspapers in order to stay informed. Another thing that is surprising, and not in a good way, is how the diamond textile mill rises out of the morning fog. It's like a black fortress devoid of life or charm, an oblong box with dirty windows. The yawning doors at the front are guarded by a number of grumpy men in suits. They bar the way in, only opening up to let out haggard, exhausted souls who shuffle off into the fog and vanish. Glancing down at your instructions, you are supposed to work on the 4th floor, close to the top. You tentatively approach the doors and ask the grumpy men where you are supposed to go. "Annie, this one belongs to you." A portly man chuckles darkly. "Don't call me Ernie if you know what's good for you." The man who joins you is wearing a suit with dirty, magnifying glasses on his face. He takes a kick at a gangly kid walking into the building. "Hey, Governor!" the child shouts out happily. An imposing young woman guides him away. The man who doesn't want to be called Ernie glowers after them before curtly addressing you. "So, you're the newest replacement. Follow these 4 women right here. Let them know you're new. They'll teach you everything you need to know and get you out onto the right row. And never call me Ernie. I am Ernest McPherson. Mr. McPherson, to you, run along." Not wanting to get kicked yourself, you hurry towards the 4 women he pointed to you. Though it is difficult to understand all of them thanks to the different nationalities and accents, you manage. They warmly greet you and take you under their wing. You are paired off with a bent grandma named Ladislava. Don't be distracted. You'll get used to the work and you won't lose any fingers. I am not trying a female Polish accent. But losing your fingers does sound like something to worry about. He has a mask as well. It helps with breathing. A little girl leads you over to one of the few barely open windows on the 4th floor. A bucket with chilled water rests outside. She explains to you how you need to soak your mask and then tie it around your nose and mouth, otherwise it will get difficult to breathe. Faint morning light cuts through the grimy windows, illuminating the clouds of dust that are kicked up by screaming machines. Ladislava helps you get accustomed to the job. You need to check the threads as they spin through the mechanized spindlers. If any of them break, you must replace the threads and make sure that the device doesn't stall. If any piece breaks, you have to replace it. Or for more interior problems within the machines, inform one of the children patrolling the floor. Swap out bobbins, pack finished threads and rolls, fold fabrics, and whatever you do, do not smoke. The whole place will go up in flames. The work immediately takes a toll on your hands and fingers, chafing your skin and rubbing in small cuts. The machines whine and scream, deafening you. The mask keeps the dust out of your nose and mouth, but nothing protects your eyes. They quickly begin to just feel so dry. Hunching over the machines, having to run after broken parts and threads, getting flustered by these alien devices, your body and mind quickly grow exhausted. And that's to say nothing of the people you are working with. McPherson passes by a few times, glaring at you. But from a cautious word from Ladislava, you realize that he's not checking out your work so much as he is studying you with a predatory eye. The young woman from earlier, whom Ladislava calls the Barbarian Queen, runs along her row, shouting at all the women to keep up the pace with the threads. Work faster, look harder, otherwise we don't go home. It's true, the older woman sighs. If we don't meet our quota, we are kept overnight until we finish everything. The company must make its profits, and don't even think of trying to run away or leave early. We're locked in here until we're done. Your stomach bottoms out. You're locked in this prison and consigned to work yourself to ruin until this Black Fortress interests are met? Locked in here with a man who is looking at you and the rest of his employees as if they were slabs of meat to purchase and coworkers bellowing harsh orders? Your hands begin to tremble. Don't worry, you'll get used to it, Ladislava says, giving you a kindly pat on the shoulder. Finally, you are left to yourself to monitor several spindles along the row. Bad luck strikes other quickly after that. One of the machines sputters and dies. Panicking, you call for help. A small boy waddles up to you, grease smeared across his face and into his dirty blonde hair. His nimble fingers work open part of the machine and exposes the moving pieces inside. Everything looks good right here, but it's broken, you protest, which means something else has gone bust. I'll have to check out the whole row. The boy trails off. He glances down the way and begins sweating. Could you please give me a light? I can't light anything. Ladislaus says it'll make the whole place burn. Then, can you stand there while I check things out, he asks. Absolutely, you say, slightly confused. It feels like it would be wrong to abandon the other machines as they're still running, but the child is worried. But who are you to abandon a boy when he's helping you out with your problem? You accompany the kid to the far end of the row. There's a long metal rectangle that connects all of the individual spindles. Everything necessary to operate each device is there and in the floor. The mechanics just go over your head, and a kid is expected to figure out this particular problem? Please stay here and keep talking to me, he requests. Talk about what? Where you come from, for starters. He slides back a plate and climbs inside. The factory guts continue to spin, crank, pump, and whine. You realize that he could die climbing inside there. You reach to pull him back, but the kid's already too far in. So, where do you come from? Why are you here? What made you want to work in the Bastille? The Bastille? You don't understand that, but you begin explaining yourself, where you came from, your family, why you ended up here. It's curious because oftentimes you never considered your life that special or amazing. But the boy keeps calling back with whoas, wows, and you must be kidding. Is his life really that boring? However, crouching there at the mouth of a dark, unknown monster, you can't help but reflect that maybe your life has been far more adventurous than you realize. You did immigrate here, but so did thousands of others. However, the boy's reactions feel incredibly validating and encouraging. Working here is just one dark chapter in a much greater story. Your story. The smile growing on your face turns into a frightened frown as the boy suddenly screams, "Ah! Get me out of here! What should I do? Get me out of here! Call for help!" His words become unintelligible. After that, he screams and cries frantically. You hear hollow metal clanks. The machine all along the row begins sputtering. Something dreadfully wrong is happening, and you haven't a clue of what to do. But the boy needs to be saved. It's a real emergency. So do you jump into the machine yourself to save the kid, or do you do as he is shouted and call for help? This is where everyone who is following along with the story chose to dive in after the boy. So here's the next part of our story. Hearing the boy's screams, you can't hold back and just call for help. Despite the small entrance into the belly of the factory, you throw yourself down and squeeze your shoulders through the opening. Your ears are filled with the roar and screech of this incredible, terrifying machine. The worst part is not the cramped spaces, though, but the darkness. You can hardly see a thing. Help me! The boy sobs. Tom, save me! I'm coming, you shout. Please, just hold on. Worming your way forward, you feel the cramped space closing in around you. Something nicks your right arm as you pass. You can feel the cut on your skin and hear the tear of your clothing. You jerk your arm back, tucking it under your chest. Maybe this was a bad idea, but you're committed now. Don't worry, I'm coming. If you can make your way back to me, I'll help pull you back. It's got me! It's got me! This is a life or death moment. Adrenaline floods you as you know you must save this boy. Your motherly instincts scream that this kid needs you now. Throwing aside a sense of self-preservation, you push forward even faster now, feeling the unseen muscles and bones of the factory tearing into you. A good chunk of your dress is ripped away. The whole machine begins wheezing and squealing. You hear other women now screaming outside, and incoherent voices echo behind you. I'm almost there, you shout to the boy. He doesn't seem to respond, but just scream and sob. His voice is growing hoarse. The floor trembles beneath you, and the sound of grinding metal shakes you to your bones. You feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Danger is coming, and you can't even see it. I think they're here. They're here. Someone shouts, banging accompanying their words. Boy, please reach out to me. I'm here. You reach your uninjured arm and hand out in front of you. Please take my hand. Bloody fingers curl around yours. It's so slick that your grip nearly slips. However, instinctual fright strengthens you, and your fist locks the boy's in a vice grip. With all your might, you haul him forward. One of the metal plates falls away, throwing a beam of light into the shaft. That is when you see the full dreadful scene. The boy is missing part of his leg, ripped right off at the knee. He's losing tons of blood. A large slash is across his face, but the worst thing you see is the large clawed hand holding onto his other leg. A wide, vicious grin is illuminated in the dirty light. As other screams mingle with the boy's and the ones that now escape from your lips, the large hand lets go and slides away. The smile vanishes. Everything is lost in the dark. Someone drops into the shaft and takes the boy. You keep holding on and find yourself reeled out of the factory's underbelly along with him. Emerging back into the stuffy, dusty factory floor, the first thing you focus on is the boy's blood spilling everywhere. Frantic women descend on the child and begin bandaging him up. More strong hands haul you back and begin applying medical care. It takes a moment before you realize that half of your skirt is missing. They must have been eaten up in the machine. However, you begin stuttering. There was something down there. It attacked him. I saw it. Smiling. Oh no, not you too. Someone groans. It was just a horrible accident, another lady says. Someone get McPherson. Here, now. We need a doctor. Events pass in a blur. The manager arrives pale and furious. He has an argument with the other women that you don't really catch. The girl called the Barbarian Queen is the one trying to patch you up as kids bring water to help wash you and the boy off and cool you both down. The manager finally sprints away and unlocks the door, but only for himself to slip out. The poor wounded boy is fading when McPherson returns with a haggard, drunk doctor. As he checks out the boy, tying a tourniquet, the Barbarian Queen begins speaking to you in hushed tones. My name is Anastasia. What is yours? You introduce yourself in an embarrassing, half-shaken way. You're still too distracted about what happened to the boy. Let the doctor tend to him. I need to know. Anastasia insists. What did you see down there? Why? The kids have all been sharing stories with Tom, and you, a new worker, are saying similar things. Without hearing any of that. A red-headed, gangly boy, the one from earlier, the one who got kicked at, suddenly pops up right next to you. Though frightened, he speaks excitedly. All the kids keep talking about seeing hands and smiling teeth. I haven't seen them myself, but I found the crawl spaces are missing things, and it's spooky down there. No one likes going in alone. He went in alone, you say, pointing to the boy. John? He's new, but I bet he asked you to stay with him. You nod. So John is his name. Anastasia shakes you. Did you really see anything smiling at you? Did you see hands? Despite the desire to suddenly vomit from fear and adrenaline, you answer in the affirmative. The boy and younger woman share significant looks. He whispers something to her as the doctor finally picks up John and escorts him and a lady who could be his mother out of the room. McPherson lets them out before locking everyone back in. All right, everyone back to work. We've been through this before. Tom, make sure you get those machines running again or you will all be working throughout the night. A child was just wounded, for heaven's sakes. Have some pity, someone shouts. Pity would mean that you'd all get thrown out for not working. You're getting paid to finish today's quota, McPherson screams. A crowd of angry women press in around him. McPherson reaches into his jacket and pulls out a pistol. He screeches, Back! You know the rules! You want out? You want to be paid? Do as you're told. Back to work! The women hush instantly. The crowd seems drawn between fear of his gun and pure loathing for his heartless rejection to a tragedy. He doesn't even ask after you as he sprints back to his office, locking himself in there. Anastasia sighs. Will you be okay, Tom? He looks sick, but answers cheerfully, Give me 3 kids and I'll get everything back and running, and no monster is going to catch us unaware. The Barbarian Queen asks you, are you ready to get back on the row, or do you need a break? This is where the readers chose take a break. You accept the Barbarian Queen's offer. You stumble off towards the far wall where there are a bunch of chairs lined for a quick rest. As you retreat, you hear the sharp young woman shout off to the rest of the floor, calling them back to work and order. The accident is terrible, but none of them want to spend the whole night in the factory burdened with that misery. What a horrible first day! You select one chair and slump against the wall. Across from you, a small crowd of women surround McPherson's office and bang on the doors and covered window, complaining loudly. The pains of your injury slowly descend. onto your senses. With the adrenaline wearing off, your body's remembering how to work properly, how to feel properly. Gritting your teeth against the gashes and scratches, you try to make yourself comfortable and relax and collect your thoughts. Am I insane, you wonder? Did I really see that hand and all those awful teeth? It was so stark, so real. Then again, it also looks similar to the machinery you find yourself surrounded by. Perhaps your fear for John's life and the awe of being in this dark, oppressive factory combined to form a waking nightmare. However, it's hard to simply push away the fact that Anastasia and Tom were asking you about it. They were visibly worried. They know something is happening. What have I gotten myself into? Turning around, finally finding a comfortable spot on the chair, you see a peculiar squat table. Its surface is overflowing with decorations and religious iconography. You see crucifixes and small houses stuffed with hay and figurines. There are loads of bracelets and beads, unlit candles, and wooden statuettes. You study it, wondering what this could be all about. Some of those images and items are things just do not belong within widely practiced Catholicism, Orthodoxy, or American Protestantism. Instead, it's a strange collection of numerous beliefs and probably superstitions. You figure that if the women and children in here want to survive such a stifling and dangerous work environment, they are probably throwing their faith into anything that they feel might help them. Curiouser, there's smoke rising from the table. Wait, didn't Ladislava say that no one should light a candle or a match in here? You stumble forward, hurriedly trying to put out the fire. However, when you arrive at the table, there's not a single spark or flame to be seen. The smoke is vanishing too. You begin to wonder if again you might just be hallucinating. Then you smell the unmistakable aroma of burnt wood. You check the icons and crosses, even digging through the hay, but there's nothing wrong. No signs of singes or blackened wood, but a few more plumes of light smoke escape from the small houses containing odd carvings. They look like angels, monsters, and big heads on squat warrior bodies. Paganism. What have some superstitious women summoned into this building? Ah, I see that you are up and about. Good, we'll need your help. You nearly jump out of your skin and turn around. You find yourself face to face with Ladislava. She smiles sympathetically and says, "Everyone needs to work as much as possible so we can make up for the break. Tom and the kids will have all the machines up and running soon." "What about John?" Her smile falls. "He won't be returning. Too many children have been maimed by these horrible machines. They are like lions in the farmhouse. Danger and death are with us so long as we are here." "Then why do we stay? Why are you still here?" you insist. "My dear, we all need the money. We all need to live. So many people are moving to America and also need money and a place to live. If we don't hold on to what we have, we will lose them, and you will end up like one of those corpses on the streets. We all have dreams, and we are all working until we achieve those dreams. You have one too, don't you?" You nod in agreement. "Yes, you have a dream, but this all feels like the wrong way to go about it." Ladislava gently takes you by the elbow and leads you back to work. Glancing back at the squat, cluttered table, you realize that you might have a chance to learn something. However, the women angrily retreating from McPherson's office make it perfectly clear, if you want to go home tonight, there's a quota to meet today. So what will you do? Will you pester Ladislava for information about the strange table and what is going on in the factory? Or will you simply return to work and try to forget these days' events? Or will you insist that you haven't had enough rest yet and return to the table and chairs? When this part of the story dropped, most people voted to pester Ladislava for more information, so that is what happened in the next part. Given all the events unfolding on your first day, and the disconcerting nature of the table you just observed, you press Ladislava for more information, though you do omit the fact that you saw smoke rising from the table. No need to scare the older woman or make her think that you are disturbed. You make it clear that you want to know why the table is on the factory floor. Above all, you need to know what is happening around here. It seems as though everyone is scared of something. The children are terrified of doing their job. The manager is in hiding, for crying out loud. And then Anastasia and Tom appear to believe the horrifying sight you witnessed. Ladislava is visibly agitated, but after checking to see who might be eavesdropping, she pulls you close to her station. In a whisper just loud enough to be heard over the whirl of the spindle, she explains, Strange things have been happening for a while. The children have whispered for a time that there was a monster in the machines. They've been at risk of getting hurt inside these awful things. She emphasizes her statement by kicking the machine. Wincing, she continues, but recently there have been many incidents and injuries. However, our situation worsened with the disappearance of Helena. She was a sweet small thing who made a bad deal with the adulterer. Ladislawa gives a sharp nod over to McPherson's office. Never accept any deals from that man. Never stay with him when your shift is done. Never! You promise that you will not spend any extra time with the guy. It wasn't like you needed much convincing. There was something very unsettling about the floor manager. We thought Helena had been attacked by the adulterer, and his attitude fit the guilty verdict. However, we began discovering gouges in the floor. We found blood where there shouldn't have been any, and the children started getting injured more often. The children were all saying the same thing, that there was a monster, that a demon was in the floor underneath us. I made sure to check with the ladies on the floor just below us. They have not seen any such problems. McPherson boarded himself into his office and stopped pestering us as much, except to pinch the behinds of the prettiest girls. Ladislava shook her head. I think that we are giving in to our fears, and that is why we've had the table decorated there. We've brought all of our faith together to pray for safety. I don't mean any disrespect, you say carefully, but I don't know if it's been helping. God helps those who work hard to help themselves. Ladislava replies firmly, Now, you need to stop gossiping. Since you are strong enough to stand here and talk, you are strong enough to work. Otherwise, we'll have to endure the barbarian queen getting angry at us for not getting out of work on time. Ladislava's warning ended up proving to be only half true. The entire floor was forced to work overtime, but Anastasia did not get angry at everyone. Instead, she labored intently at her own station, constantly checking in with Tom. The children were unable to repair the machines as quickly as they had hoped, and an entire row was left unusable, throwing the entire floor off its rhythm. The women spread out to share the work, keeping everything else running nice and tight, but the quota was not met at closing time. The entire time, you do your part to keep up and help out where you can, learning everything that you possibly can on your first day, but all your injuries sting and burn throughout the day. But you set your jaw looking forward to getting out and away from this place. It is severely tempting to just up and quit. Apparently a dozen women have already done so, even though McPherson and the other managers have done their best to slander those ladies and ruin their attempts to get work within walking distance of their homes. The vindictiveness and cruelty continue to shock you the more you learn. You keep glancing at the distant table to see if anything else peculiar occurs. Nothing. McPherson emerges at the end of the shift and angrily looks at the loading elevator, and then to all of you, he peers through his dirty glasses and shouts, Well done, ladies. Your playing around has cost us precious time today, but you will not cost the company its money or its hard-earned wages. You know what needs to be done. You will continue working until the quota is met. Then you can go home. The women begin complaining, and some of the children start crying. It's the rules! Now hop to it! It's all right. It's only a few hours lost, Anastasia calls out to everyone. Working together, we can fill the quota within an hour. So long as nothing else bad happens. One woman sneers, shooting a nasty look at her, and then towards you. How is any of this my fault? I don't control the machines, and I tried to save John, you think, affronted. It's clear that the women are looking for someone or something to blame for all this. The new girl is an easy target. Ladislava and the other elders shuffle uncomfortably off before calling everyone back to their positions and stations, threading the dangerous needle of keeping everyone on your good side, eh? Another reason to probably quit this job. You can hear the sounds of women moving out of the floors and climbing down the stairs to leave this awful, stuffy factory. Even though the sun has gone down and the chill should be creeping in, the running machines keep everything hot and stuffy. Tom makes sure that the bucket for face masks is refilled and hung outside. You decide that you need some more water and a little more on your hot cuts to cool them down. That would just feel marvelous. As you get near the window, you hear a metallic rustling. Stopping, you watch the window and observe them rattling softly. It happens like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. Thump. Your breath dies in your throat. You want to scream or say something, but nothing comes to your lips. Wildly, you spin to look at the distant table. Though the light is bad, you're sure you see more smoke. Steeling yourself and gathering up what remains of your skirts, you sprint for the table, nearly crashing into the wall and the small chairs gathered there, and you confirm what you thought you saw. Smoke is slowly rising from the table. "Anastasia!" you shout, her name being the first that jumps into your mouth. "Anastasia! What's the matter?" Tom asks, appearing at your elbow. "Boy, do you see what I'm seeing? The smoke!" you gasp. He narrows his eyes, then yelps as well. He dives for the table and searches. "No sparks! Please let there be no sparks!" "There won't be any," you assure him. "What's going on?" Anastasia asks, calmly approaching. She draws herself up and looks every part of the imposing barbarian queen. Her height, pale skin, blonde hair, and the way it eerily reflects in the poor light makes her look like an imposing murderous ghost. "Anna, there's smoke coming from the worship stool," Tom says quickly, "but there's no sign of fire. No sign of it." Anastasia begins inspecting the table. You decide you might as well share your observation about the windows. She gives you a piercing look before turning to Tom and saying in a low voice, "We keep this to ourselves." She turns to you. "Understand? We need to get out of here. I'll take my complaints to the other managers. Before the next shift begins, they will know that something is wrong with this floor's machines. We'll pressure them before they lock us in here tomorrow morning. If all the other women think that there will be a fire, they won't work of their own for their own safety, and they will investigate to see what's wrong. Then the monster can eat the vulture," Tom says excitedly. "The who?" you ask. Anastasia crosses her arms and grunts. "He means Manager McPherson. Now come on, we need to get back to work." Right as she said that, one row sputtered to a standstill. The women along the row groan and pull back, calling for Tom. And then the central spindle jumps and trembles. After a few screams, it comes to a stop. A measured tremor runs through the floor as you watch other spindles and looms shudder as if they were metal grass moving in the wake of an unseen wolf. "We need to get out of here," you hiss. "We can't. We're locked in," Anastasia said, her cold, calm demeanor cracking. You glance over at McPherson's office. The man is presumably a cretin, and he has not been seen on the floor except to berate and bully, but having any man around to help sounds like a good idea at the moment. But whatever is happening in this factory is a nightmare coming to life. You want to leave. Unfortunately, throwing yourself out the windows is a quick way to become a human pancake. You want to live, so what will you do? Will you go to McPherson's office and try to get him to help you out? Or will you attack the chained doors and try to break out? Or will you face your own fears and help Tom investigate what has happened to the machines? The choice was made by everyone reading this to go and attack the doors and try to break out. So this is what followed. Watching the row of machines bulge and rise like a wave building before the shore, you lose your nerve and you run straight for the doors. Yes, you know they are locked, but there has to be a way out. Throwing your shoulder into the double doors, you are immediately rebuffed. The chains on the other side of the doors are wrapped tight. The door you slammed into gives about 2 inches, giving you just a little bit of room to see the chains and the padlock keeping you inside with the unseen nightmare. Undeterred, you continue bashing and pushing against the door, hoping for a weakness. As the other women scream, you frantically search for any exposed hinges. Peeling away grime and dust, you expose the heavy pins. It occurs to you that you do not have any tools to undo the hinges and make the doors fall out of their frame. You must either get the tools or get people to help you form a battering ram and break the doors down yourselves. Tom! Jumping with fright, you spin around to see Anastasia yank Tom out of the first row. His face is covered in grease and a splatter of blood. He is holding his left arm, and a couple of other women are shouting nonsense as they wrap his arm with torn shreds of their own dresses. Another kid is now injured. You call to the crowd, "Help me break down the door!" Only a few women and 2 children respond to you. They hurl themselves against the doors, trying to budge them loose or knock off the chains. Neither of them give. The others begin scattering from the rows, plastering themselves against the wall. A few more women begin bashing their fists against the far windows, shouting for help. Anastasia guides Tom towards McPherson's office. More women are knocking at his door and windows, trying to get inside. A horrible grinding sound emanates from the floor as the entire factory suddenly quakes. The screech of metal becomes deafening before cutting off completely. The machines slowly come to a rest, settling back into their normal positions. While you can't completely tell if anything's been broken, the calm and normality seem eerily wrong. "McPherson, come out now! We need help! We need out!" Anastasia shouts. No responses come. You renew your call, all asking for help to break down the doors. More women join you, but the chains hold strong, preventing you from escaping. Glass shatters, but the open windows don't offer any safe retreat. Your coworkers wail and cry as they learn what you have already tragically realized for yourself. You are in a death trap. Tom pulls Anastasia away from the office and whispers something to her. The barbarian queen's eyes grow wide and she stands to her full imperious height. She shouts out to Lyslava, calling her and some other women to accompany her. 5 women and a wounded Tom approach you, some of them angrily, others frightened. "You're right," Anastasia tells you. "We need to get through the doors. Tom here has a gun." "What?" Lyslava shouts. "You could start a fire!" Another woman screeches. "Burn us all alive!" Some of the women back away, dragging their children along the walls. The awful sound of screaming, rending metal is over, replaced with the normal sounds of whirling and whining machines. Some of them begin sputtering out as thread gets jammed and causes the machines to stop. Clouds of spewed fibers and dust fly into the air. It feels as if something, though, is different. An unperceived change is happening. If you don't get out now, someone will die. "Here, I have a revolver," Tom says, pulling a gun out from behind his pants. "You had this on you?" you ask incredulously. "Stuffed down your back this whole time?" "Don't ask how he got it," Anastasia says. "How are we going to get out?" You look at the gun and see it has 6 shots. There's a chance to weaken the door or shoot out the lock. However, you know that McPherson must have a key on him. Pushing both doors, though there's just enough space to reach through and get the padlock, you might be able to unlock it and get out. So what will you do? Well, the choice was made to go and get the keys, so thus follows. Electing to get the keys from McPherson, you hope to escape without spending any bullets or setting the whole factory ablaze. At your word, Tom and Anastasia strike for McPherson's boarded-up office. Caught up in the excitement, you follow, as do many other women and most of the children. Everyone stays close to the walls and avoids the rows of machines. The horrors underneath them have quieted, but that doesn't mean that they aren't still present. You can still clearly remember that smile and clawed hand from earlier. Shivering away your unease, you arrive at the door. Anastasia thumps her fist against it, shouting, "Get out of there, Manager McPherson. Something is very, very wrong on the factory floor. We all need to leave at once. Finish your job and fill the quota, then you can leave," McPherson shouts back through the door. "Open up or I'm going to fill you with hot lead," Tom threatens. "Ha, nice try." Tom goes up through the window and raps metal against glass. There's a pause and then a curtain peels back, revealing boards across the window. You watch McPherson's magnified dirty eyes peer through the dim light at the gun in Tom's hand. His expression darkens, and he vanishes behind the curtain. "Anastasia, I never thought you would betray me like this," he shouts angrily through the door. "I will see you all clamped in irons and thrown into the deepest prison cells for this. And Tom, you better hope that they feed you heavy bread before they hang you. Otherwise, I expect it'll take an hour before you suffocate." "Can I shoot him, please?" Tom asks you. You insist that you just need the keys. It will be best if you can all get out without shooting or killing. As you speak, the odd sounds of scraping and furniture squealing against the floor reaches your ears. Anastasia pulls back from the door and harumphs. "Tom, can you open the door with that gun?" "Watch me," he says with a grin. Bang! Small holes are punched through the door. One of the women you don't recognize reels back, red blossoming across her chest. Blood immediately soaks her blouse and jacket. She stumbles back and crashes into the nearest machine. The other women scream and scatter. You crouch down as the window's glass breaks. McPherson punches through with the butt of his rifle and takes aim. His gun roars, but luckily no one else is hit. Tom ducks next to you, swearing, Devil's own bastard, he's mad! He snarls, sloppily cocking his pistol. Tom, watch out! Anastasia calls out. Bang! The wall near you breaks a little as the rifle rips an uneven hole in the brick and wood. We're all gonna die! We're all gonna die! You repeat, beginning to hyperventilate. A horrible metallic screech echoes through the large room, cutting you off. Your breath catches in your throat, and you look back towards the machines. The wounded woman is carried away from the second row by two co-workers, but she's going limp. Beyond her, the small table with all the religious icons is smoking. A gray haze rises over the commotion, sent up by an unseen, angry fire. You wonder what under heaven is happening. As the sound grows louder, the floor begins to tremble. McPherson shouts unintelligibly, firing a hasty shot through the window that only blasts apart the boards covering it up. Tom seizes the opportunity and swings around, shooting out the door's handle and lock. It swings open and Tom leaps back to you. Bang! Another shot rips through the threshold, and another woman screams in agony. You clamp your hands over your ears, fearing that you made the wrong decision. Tom is counting next to you, but you can't understand why. And it is then that the nearest machine rears like a wild horse. McPherson loses a scream of his own and fires another shot through the door. Sparks fly off the spindle and looms, but nothing more. Tom wheels around the door and raises his gun. Keys, now, or I kill you! There's a tense, deafening moment as the machine starts falling apart. Women press up against the doors, trying to push their way free. The floor quakes fiercely, and a guttural hiss comes up from the empty spaces under the rows. You peer around the corner and find McPherson staring beyond Tom, white-faced and trembling, his lips quivering, and his rifle nearly falling from his shaky grip. The manager lets out a pathetic whimper. Tom quickly moves around and searches the desk, keeping his pistol trained on McPherson. Tom! Anastasia hisses. Hurry, you yelp, glancing over your shoulder. Ah, got him, he yells, holding up a ring of keys. The machines groan as they crash back to the floor, breaking apart and spraying pieces all over. A deep crack like an arrow strikes towards the door. The floor's shaking is so great you believe the factory's about to collapse under your own feet. You dive out of the way as Tom stumbles forward. McPherson shouts, Wait, I'm coming! Crack! The sound is thunderous as the floor bursts open, sending Tom flying. Anastasia barely manages to catch him as you catch yourself. The manager howls with fright before screaming in a similar manner to the woman he has shot. The barbarian queen glances over her shoulder before turning white as a sheet. Screeching like a banshee, she runs for the doors, holding Tom. You surge and follow, but cannot help looking back through the open door. Into the office, you see a great clawed hand attached to a metallic arm made of bone and strange metal. It has burst up from the ground, taking hold of McPherson. Cruel fingers dig deep into his chest and gut. He coughs up blood. He looks to you imploringly before the ungodly hand pulls him into the floor. His legs bend unnaturally and snap as he's dragged down with inhuman strength. Unable to say anything, you race after Anastasia. All is pandemonium around you. The women and children mill about like mindless ants, terrified out of their minds. Tom enters the crush of bodies and barely manages to unlock the padlocks and loosen the chains. Women and children spill out of the factory floor and into the stairwell. Just in time. The floor erupts, sending debris in every direction as a creature shrouded in dust and low light claws its way out. The predator is here to give chase. Now you are confronted with a very terrible choice. Given how many women and children are choking the most obvious exit, it's very likely that you will get caught up by this terrible monster. However, not all hope is lost. There is the elevator that transports products and supplies down. You could try riding that down to the first floor, but is it worth such a risk? You don't see anyone else sprinting for it. So will you continue to press on and try to leave through the door, or will you run for the elevator and hope to escape that way? This is where things actually got really interesting because there was a lot of discussion, at least on Facebook, for which route should be taken. And there were a lot of people who wanted to take the elevator route, but in the end, the majority vote was to go through the stairwell. So this is what happens next. There is strength in numbers. You throw yourself into the crush of fleeing women and children. It's difficult because there are so many bodies trying to get through such a tight space. The going is not very fast, and some women are even beginning to break down and barely move at all. The monster behind you roars, and you hear a fresh scream mixed with a horrific sound. It piques your morbid curiosity. Despite yourself, you turn to look back one more time. The monster that steps out of the dust cloud is beyond unnatural. Its body is bony and long, with multiple arms and legs sticking out like an insect's. A large, smiling mouth is stretched across an eyeless, crocodile-like head. Threads hang from its angular frame that has the color of dust and cement. Stolen bits of metal and machinery cover its body like patches. The worst, though, is transpiring before you. Small hands and a child's arm and leg are growing from its sides. A fresh leg, John's leg, is joining the limbs towards the monster's rear. One human body slowly slides down the side of its neck, bulging the unnatural monster with skin, flesh, and metal, like a body moving under silken sheets. McPherson's screaming body sits across from the form of a woman set in the monster's first set of shoulders. Both heads rest in the beast's neck, their covered eyes on the fleeing women. You can't describe how, but somehow you know that this monster is using stolen eyes to watch you all. "Everyone run!" you scream. Bang! Tom's gun smokes. Sparks fly from the monster's face. It is completely unfazed. Long, clawed hands reach for more victims, more people to throw into that wide, smiling gullet. The women in the back push frantically, causing an avalanche of bodies on the stairs. Women young and old tumble down. Tom keeps firing his gun until it clicks hollowly. The crowd carries you away, and then all you hear are the screams behind you as you likewise fall down the stairs. Miraculously, you keep your feet under you, dancing and prancing down the unforgiving stairs. You crash against a dark wall, bruising your face, but you don't stop. Following the crowd, reduced to a bumbling shadows, you hold to the wall and scoot your way down, buffeted by more fleeing women. The sounds of Tom's roaring pistol returns. This is followed by a high-pitched squeal. You pray that the boy has somehow mortally wounded the nightmare and that it will die, but more screams soon follow. Once you make it down to the main floor, low lanterns light the hallway, and the locked doors just beyond. 4 scared and really confused guards are waiting below. They have their own pistols and clubs in hand, but they don't move as the flood of women and children rush them. Voices in all kinds of languages plead for them to open the doors. One man raises his gun and fires it twice before them. "No one is leaving, not until your floor manager clears you. Now go back upstairs, or we're getting the constables." "Get them, please! Kill McPherson! We're all gonna die! It's coming for us! You need to get out! You'll die too! Save my daughter! Rescue my son! Think of the children!" The men are obviously disturbed, and their guns are leveled at all of you. They don't understand. They never could understand. You would never have understood it unless you had seen it, witnessed this thing for yourself. New voices begin to scream from above. "Fire!" And so, that was what Tom had done. Oh no. You look around frantically. On the ground floor, you are so close to escape and safety, but there are no windows around, just 2 large locked doors guarded by 4 frightened men with guns, and charging those doors could lead to you getting shot and killed. But the exit is right there. You can't go back for so many obvious reasons, but there's a fire coming, so there's no time to delay. Perhaps there's another exit around here somewhere on the ground level? Anywhere! As another high-pitched squeal reaches your ears, you realize the monster is coming. The fire is coming. What should you do? Should you charge the doors to break free, or retreat into the factory and find another way out? Well, the vote on this count was very clear. Find another way out. After the chaos of rushing down the stairs and facing 4 guards with guns, you decide it would be much better, much safer to retreat deeper into the factory and find another way out. You cut through the frantic crowd and barrel into 2 heavy doors in the back. You push against them until they give way and you end up on another factory floor. Only the light behind you provides any guidance or clarity in the darkness. You see row after row of machines standing silent. It's too eerie, and you judge they'll be safer to hug the wall. You inch through the gloom, hearing people cry and scream, their sounds mingling with the deafening gunshots and horrifying roars. As you carefully make your way, the far wall is illuminated with a spooky sight. Glowing embers cut through the fog of unwashed windows, drifting down like lazy snowflakes, a clear sign that the factory is on fire. You can't stop glancing upwards frightenedly, hoping to not see any signs of fire coming through the ceiling. Yes, it is stone and cement, but with a monster on the loose, anything can happen. Crash! You painfully stumble into a table, scattering all kinds of stuff on the floor. Tripping and falling hard to your knees, your hands splay out, catching whatever you've spilled. Scrambling, you pick up a few things and find more religious icons. Candles, versions of the Virgin Mary, a carved wooden totem. Even in the bad light, they're all smoking. Crying women begin to stream into the room where you are at. Panicking that the monster or the guards might be closing in, you throw caution to the wind and sprint for the windows. You carry the small table with you that you knocked over, and with a heave, you hurl it right through the nearest window, shattering it. This causes more women to scream before they collapse into nervous laughter and sighs of relief. Using your jacket and shredded skirts, you work together with them to clear the rest of the glass and then start climbing out of the building. More embers are falling now, accompanied by the wails of frantic women. Drawn to the cacophony, you look upwards and find ladies bashing against the second-floor windows, breaking them open. The fire is traveling fast through the entire building, igniting all the fiber dust and flammable leftovers from the spewing machines. Breaking their own windows open, they fling themselves to the ground, right at you. The other women scatter, making room. You find yourself half carried, half pushed across the back courtyard towards a walkway that leads around to the front. The 5th, 4th, and 3rd floors are all ablaze, and out of the 3rd-story window erupts a black serpentine form. The monster is out. The frantic ladies on the 2nd floor hardly pay attention as they jump for safety, more than a few rolling their ankles or breaking a leg. The others are fleeing, leaving you unsure if anyone else has marked the monster's escape. You are suddenly struck with an awful choice. Should you follow it? Given the many eyewitnesses and authorities who they will have to believe that there is a monster on the run. However, a creature that massive hid itself in a factory of machines. It could easily hide itself again. If you were to follow it and find out where it goes next, with the testimonies of the other women, you might confidently lead law enforcement and even the military to the monster's hideout and kill it once and for all. The only problem is, you are one person. This creature appears to be bulletproof and can easily kill and devour its victims. You are wounded, scared, and exhausted. Is it even worth it? So what will you decide? Will you follow the monster and track it back down to where it goes, or will you escape with the other women and leave the matter to the city police? And this is where I will present two separate endings right here. On YouTube, it was unanimously voted, pretty much, almost unanimously voted, to leave, to escape. You got out, save yourself. On Facebook, on the other hand, everyone voted to follow the monster. So I'm going to give you both versions right here, and we'll wrap up the story, and I'll talk about the experience. So, choosing to leave. Putting the monster behind you, you sprint around the factory corner and for the front gates. Rounding the building, the full fury of the inferno expands before you. The heat washes over the gathering crowd, and terrified women and children pour out onto the darkened streets. They mix with men hurrying forward, desperately looking for any way to put out the flames. As calls go up for the fire department, bells ring in the distance, all as chaos as people are racing to the factory. Though it is your first day working at the Diamond Textile Mill, you look around for anyone you might know. You find Tom and Anastasia supporting each other. Blood is splashed all across Tom, who has shreds of Anna's dress bound across his arm to staunch his wounds. The so-called barbarian queen limps with either a turned or broken ankle. They are both white-faced as you approach. "You're alive!" you say, relieved. "We almost didn't make it," Anastasia says heavily. Tom smiles as he adds, "We just barely escaped that monster. It got a bit of me, though. At least I didn't end up like the manager." The horrifying, fresh memory of watching McPherson being swallowed and assimilated into the nameless creature washes over you. It takes great effort to not empty your stomach all over the boy and girl's feet. More managed to get out, but those bastards shot a few women, Anastasia explains, nodding towards the front doors. You see a pile of bodies that the other workers are climbing over. The other workers rushed them and crushed the guards. The monster was coming down the stairs, and every woman lost their minds. I don't know how many were trampled to death. You withdraw alongside the injured pair, watching the evacuation. Laislava emerges, clutching her arm, pushing up against the shoulder of a woman caked in blood. A mother cradles her daughter, weeping. Two boys support each other, eyes wide and unseeing. Men grab water and rags to soothe the burns on the faces, necks, and backs of escaped women. Others run around the factory to retrieve the workers with broken legs and twisted ankles. Some also look to have broken their arms and wrists in bad falls. It's a massacre! Shivering against the horror and chill of the night, you almost draw close to the raging inferno. You then remember that a monster is on the loose, and you grow upset. You need to tell someone about the monster's escape. Thankfully, eventually, law enforcement and the fire department arrive. Inspectors begin taking statements. It's with, though, a dawning horror that you realize no one is taking any of the women or children seriously. Even when you tell them that the monster got loose, and Anastasia and Tom corroborate your description of the beast, the constables dismiss your claims. It just becomes too much, and you break down crying. Strangers comfort you as best as they can. The police gripe about immigrants lying and setting fires to get out of work. Fights break out between them and other men who came to provide assistance. Chaos continues to grow, and the monsters vanished into the night unchecked. As the sun rises and cuts through the night's accumulated mists, the diamond textile mill continues to burn. 6 women have been burned to death. 4 guards, 9 kids, and 5 women were crushed in a stampede to break through the front doors. One elderly lady smashed her head on the ground, leaping from the second floor, and died 2 hours later. Anywhere between 5 to 20 people were claimed to have been killed by the monster, and many others have just gone missing. So many others are injured. The whole scene is a living nightmare. You eventually make your way back home. It takes some time for you to recover, and in the subsequent days and weeks, many changes occur. Women are rounded up and interrogated as socialist terrorists and invaders from barbarian countries. There's a massive flight out of fear from several of the neighborhoods. The old Irish tenement finally vacates. Many Poles move out as well. The old ruins of the diamond textile mill are repossessed, and plans are drawn up to transform them into warehouses. The suffragettes move into the area in force to advocate for greater protection for women and children in the workplace. City investigations and trials are launched to find easy scapegoats before the next election. Meanwhile, you learn that Ladislava stopped working to recover and to take care of her grandchildren. Tom and Anastasia vanished, with rumors that they ran westward to escape accusations that they were the ones who started the fire. Rumors swirl for a couple of days that McPherson's wife was committed to a sanatorium. Others report that McPherson went mad and started the fire to escape the consequences of his immorality. But as for the monster, it is written off as shared mass hysteria. The newspapers published that the weak constitution of the women and children made them invent a monster to make sense of the factory's awful work environment and the subsequent fire. Incensed, sickened, and terrified, it takes weeks for you to recover to the point that you can go back outside without heavy coaxing and close friends and family surrounding you at all times. But you always wonder where the beast went. The city officials never found it. For years, you wonder how many murders and stories of missing people are connected to that smiling monster. However, such monsters do exist, far more than you know, and others will discover them. One such incident involved a traveling carnival, but that is a story well beyond your time, and from another Halloween. Now, here's the ending based on you deciding to chase after the creature. Let's see what you think about the contrast. Swallowing your fears, you find a well of courage deep within you that you didn't know was there. A determination to chase this monster and get some justice takes hold of your mind and body. Yes, you can't kill this thing on your own. You admit it, but if you can't find its next hiding place or nest, you can at least let the authorities know. You can lead them to the monster and prove what happened. They'll bring justice and death down on this monstrosity for sure. You climb over a wall and fall into a strange street. Glancing up, you see the monster deftly climbing along the walls and low roofs of the surrounding buildings, fleeing down the same back street you are on. Keeping back a little, you follow as quietly as you can. The night's mists begin to rise from the cobblestones and creep out of the alleyways. Drunks stumble around, getting taken advantage of by pickpockets and homeless youths. None of them notice the monster just above them. And you fear crying out to them because, well, it might lead to the beast turning on you and consuming everyone on the street. Staying silent, vigilantly following, the monster leads you around a couple of turns. You find yourself, eventually, in a neighborhood of mechanized butcheries. A horrible smell rises from the slaughterhouses and meat processing plants. Pinching your nose, you slow down as the monster gets down onto the street. Its whole body quivers, its tail swishing almost like a nervous cat. Grok! Grok! You clamp your hands over your ears to block out the horrible sounds. The monster appears to be calling out. As confused as you are, it's nothing compared to the sheer dread you feel when an even deeper sound, something between a croak and a screech, answers it. The beast quivers and silently begins to move. In the distance, the factories shudder. A squelched yelp escapes from the monster's smiling mouth. You spy with disgust that has added 4 more bodies to the disturbing collection under its skin. 3 more women and a child. The monster backs up, bumps against a wall, and scrambles up it. Faster than before, it shoots into the night. Your legs are shaking. You rush to give chase. You can't let escape after coming so far, not after you've confirmed that it's killed more people. And then you feel it. Crushing dread. The night deepens and grows colder. Instincts deep within you scream for you to turn around and flee. However, you trip on a cobblestone. You manage to get your feet just under you, but it makes you sprint in the opposite direction really sloppily. And this one measly mistake gives the nightmare above you a chance to pounce. Large clawed fingers full of saw blades wrap around you. It squeezes hard enough that it chokes out your first scream. The blades bite into you, sending your mind into temporary shock. It moves fast, lifting you above a wide, smiling maw full of teeth, like a shark. Dozens of bodies run down its neck and torso. This monster is even larger than the one that attacked you in the factory. Before you get out one more scream, it swallows you whole. From there, I wrote an epilogue very similar to the ending that I gave to When You Actually Choose to Survive. And yes, I will say this. This story is a prequel to another Choose Your Own Horror Adventure story that we actually did here on the channel. It's part of one of our earlier experiments with what we could do. And I haven't gone back and tried out that format where I make an individual video for each chapter, just because of the amount of time that it takes, not only to get the votes, but to write up the script and then to record it and edit it and put it all out. It takes up quite a bit of time, especially when you're only one person working on it. Woo! So, yeah, I went for this format instead, where we did it all through a shared document that I posted the link onto not just YouTube, but onto various social media platforms. And really, we had the most interaction here on YouTube and on Facebook. And again, thank you so much to everyone who participated in this. It was a ton of fun. Now, for a bit of writing advice and insights based on this whole experience right here. One thing is this, it is a ton of fun to get feedback from other people, to have people share their thoughts on what should be done within a story. And this is something that you're going to run into a whole lot, where you are faced with a challenge in your own writing where you're like, I could actually do multiple things right here. I've got a couple of good choices. That's where a writing group and beta readers really come in handy, because they can say, hey, look, so based off of what we know about your story, based off everything that we've read, we think that this would be the best choice. You take in everyone's feedback, and then you as the writer, you don't necessarily have to go with the most popular choice, but you can use all of that feedback and information to inform you on what you should do next. Feedback is essential in writing any good story. And for a bit of writing advice right here, if you're going to try to write a choose-your-own-adventure story, just know this. It's not that easy. You have to be able to write multiple stories, all branching off into various directions. And you want to keep it manageable. What I actually wrote right here is about the length of a novelette. That is between 5,000 to 10,000 words. With most choose-your-own-adventure stories, they don't go much longer than a novella. Now, one of the things you might have realized is that there were so many different options for things that could happen, which would then have branched off into other options and into other options. The more that you write, the more options that you give, the more you have to write to the point that you're basically writing individual novels for all of the different main options and choices, which is incredibly time-consuming and actually doesn't work out all that well. A very good choose-your-own-adventure story actually normally loops people back around to similar choices that can be revisited, so that way you can, through two or three different choices, come back to certain places within the story, so that way you're not writing a novel here, 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 like different branches on a tree, but more like a bramble that feeds back in on itself, because otherwise you're just going to be writing so much, which some people would absolutely relish that challenge, and if you want to do it, go on ahead and do it. Just know this, it is incredibly time consuming, and you really need to make sure that you're paying attention to all the details that you're putting into every single possibility, because it's very, very easy to lose certain information, certain tidbits, certain descriptions that actually might end up being very important later on. I even made that mistake when writing this story. So when it comes to writing a choose-your-own-adventure story, simplicity is probably key in making sure that you can write a good story. And in all honesty, that actually goes for most books that you could write. Simplicity, brevity, being precise really helps out your writing. And you can even see this in other classic works like, say, The Lord of the Rings. An interesting thing is that we actually seem to always to remember that The Lord of the Rings is way more wordy and long than it actually is. It's when you look at the word count and the page count, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is actually a very quick read. One of the reasons why it feels so overwhelming is because Tolkien used very precise words to communicate maximum information with minimal words, which is an incredible feat, and I'm nowhere near that level of mastery. But the better that a writer gets at their craft, the more they come to realize that brevity really is the best way to communicate your story. Finding what is the most important thing to say and saying it in the best way that you can, and cutting all of the fluff. Now, overall, I absolutely enjoyed doing this adventure right here. Yes, it's a lot of work. It took quite a bit of time out of my regular writing schedule and editing schedule throughout the month of Halloween, and it did take some preparations ahead of time, but I've always enjoyed doing these kinds of stories, and I am very grateful for the feedback that I got from people. There are some people who weren't really fans of this particular format, and I understand, and then there were plenty of others who said that they want us to try this again in the future. So for next Halloween, we're going to give it a go again and see what we can do, see if we can improve on this a little bit right here. Because this is a lot of fun, and again, I enjoy having at least some kind of way of interacting here on YouTube with people other than just simply having videos and community posts. Having a story that people can interact with is a ton of fun, and by being able to see how this was somewhat of a success, it makes me grow a little bit ambitious for trying something even bigger and crazier in the future that we might try. If we are going to do that, I'd love to definitely make sure that we have that participation there. So we'll see how things turn out. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure right here. If you've made it this far in the video, congratulations and happy Halloween! If you're looking for more stories, more insights, more reviews, analyses, and so forth, then please feel free to check out our other videos here on our channel. You can also head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem. And if you'd like to support everything that we do here, please like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already done so. But it would be of a major benefit to us, a major help if you checked out the books that we've already published and maybe bought a copy or two. Links for them are in the description below. But otherwise, again, thank you so much for joining us on this crazy, sometimes horrifying adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.